So I've just come back from the US. I've been out there for 10 days or so. And I wanted to do a little podcast to reflect on some things because having chance to be away from normality always gives you a chance to see things from a different perspective. That's happened for me, and I hope that over the summer this can happen for you too, because it was incredible for me. So let me give you some context to this. So about a week or so ago, you'll remember, maybe 10 days ago, there was this global IT glitch. It happened on a Thursday evening and filtered through to the UK on the Friday morning. And basically what happened is cybersecurity company called CrowdStrike made an error that filtered into other systems and knocked out planes, hotels, trains, big businesses, the works. So this happened all around the world, and I'm sat in the airport. And I just started filming some of the queues building up because I thought this was insane. And I put them on TikTok and put them on Twitter. And basically within 3 or 4 hours, I was internet famous. If I wasn't already, I don't know. And I went on 13 TV interviews, was reporting with ITV, BBC, Sky News, went live on Sky News, talking about what was happening at Gatwick. And what fascinated me about it was how much of a frenzy media outlets were in to get hold of footage of what was happening around the world. And people were hungry to know what was happening because there was something going on globally. And so my TikTok, I got about 200,000 views on TikTok, about 80,000 on Twitter on this stuff. And basically a company wanted to buy the rights to the footage from me. So all this went down. Then I went off to America and was doing a whole load of workshops. And this whole experience of going out to the US, I've been out to the US God knows how many times. But it just struck me how much opportunity is sat around me and you at any given time. And often what happens is, you know, we listen to the news. We listen to social media, and we suddenly start to believe that there's a lack of opportunity for us, or there's difficult economic times and blah, 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 blah. But the reality is for us as individuals, as business owners, there is so much opportunity at our feet. Tons. I mean, literally, if you're a country, you have finite financial resources, and as an individual you have finite resources. But when you are a business owner, you could go, and I've had this scenario, maybe I'll tell the story. I've had this scenario whereby an opportunity comes your way and we don't see it, and there's life-changing opportunities all around us all the time, and we don't know how to seize them, or we don't choose to seize them because we become skeptical, we become jaded about what's happening. And I just want to share some stories from my own example, because I think some of you listening to me have become so maybe disillusioned with where the world is right now and the economics that you're actually missing opportunities that lie at your feet. So I've been posting on social media for a very long time. It must be approaching now nearly 20 years across all the different channels. Started out on Facebook and Twitter, then obviously LinkedIn became a huge thing. Now investing a lot more time on the other channels as well as LinkedIn. But I was basically posting on Twitter about some plans I had and just, sharing stuff. And somebody asked for a meeting with me. And I was a little bit skeptical because of having a meeting, because one, it involved a 2-3 hour drive. That's the first reason I was skeptical. Do I really want to go 2 to 3 hours for a drive for a coffee, which could come to nothing? So I was skeptical of that. But the other reason I was skeptical is because I'd had so many of these coffees where it was absolute time wasters. Do you know what I mean? Where people come on the call and they either want to pick your brains, suck you for every last morsel and don't pay you a penny. All of that stuff. I'd had tons of that. And you see now some people actually being divas about this and saying, I won't go on a call with somebody unless you pay me. And I think that's a flawed strategy because you miss out on so much opportunity. So I was in this position whereby this coffee could go ahead. And I was like, oh, it's a long way for a coffee. And I had a coffee with somebody last week and they tried to sell me something. And I thought I was going to sell them something. And I've had a coffee with somebody before and, they literally have no money, so I can't sell them anything. So, you get to a point where if you're trying to build your business, you go, do I really want to do this? And unfortunately, opportunity does not come in nice, tidy, packaged box labeled big opportunity. And this is the most annoying thing. And I get into my hobby horse with salespeople often when I'm working with companies, salespeople. They only want qualified leads. And it's like, the world does not work that way. It's madness. How do you qualify a lead without having a conversation? You cannot do it. Tell me you'll buy from me and then I will pay some interest into you. No, it's nonsense. Anyway, so I end up going for this coffee. And it was a coffee. I shared a couple of things and it went nowhere. I came away from it going, oh, another one of those coffees. Right? So that's what happened. And then a week or so later, they rang me back and said, we'd love you to come and look at a project we're working on. Can't promise you anything at the moment, but we'd love you to come and look at a project. So from this waste of time, apparent waste of time, from this 2-hour drive for a coffee, I'd had tons of those before. Guess what? I end up looking at a project. So it's still speculative, but I think, okay, project, I'll go and have a look. So I went having a look at the project, another few-hour drive. And it was a really interesting project. I said we'd put some proposals together, which I was going to come back and do. And then they said to me, would you come and pitch this to our board? Right? So this coffee that I thought was pointless, that I thought was a waste of time, became an opportunity and became a pitch to their board. That deal became, at the time, was the biggest personal solopreneur deal I'd ever done in my life. Now, yes, I'd worked with other companies. I've worked with clients and helped them get deals. But this was the biggest deal I'd ever done in my life. And I didn't see it coming. I didn't know what was going to happen from it. I just did a networking thing hoping I'd make, at that time, my retainers were like £500 a month, social media, marketing retainers and stuff like that. I never in my wildest dreams believed that I would sign a deal of that size. And it ended up turning into a 3.5-year deal, changed my life, changed my perspective on the world, but I never saw it coming. And I wonder how many opportunities have been in our world that we have not seized because it didn't look like an opportunity. And one of the downsides of this is that you can't see them coming. But this was right up my street. The project was right up my street. It was in my skill set. It was something I knew hands down. It was perfect. It was absolutely perfect. But the first coffee had no indications that that was there, that was even present. And I've had scenarios like that happen over and over and over again over the last 20 years. And I became convinced of something. If you run your own business, there is no limits on what you can do. The opportunities are massive, right? Literally, there could be a company that could come to you right now and pay you a £10,000 a month retainer right now. There's probably 10,000 companies who could do that. But one of the biggest challenges is they don't know who we are, and they don't know they don't know how we can help. They don't know who we are, and we need to have those relationships in place. So personal brand is massive, but you also need those relationships in place. The coffees. And this might seem really, really strange that I'm going to say this to people, and it might seem like I'm encouraging you to waste your time. But there is something powerful in having coffees with people and building those relationships. Now, you may be a business owner, solopreneur, you may have a team, and you may think, I cannot afford this time to build those relationships. I cannot afford this time to build my personal brand. And experience has taught me that I cannot afford not to do those things, because the opportunities that come down the line. And I've had instances of this since, where things that I thought were nothing become huge. Things that I thought was going to be like just a small little job that I was on the fence about even bothering to do or wanting, have become, 6 and 7 figure opportunities. And it's the little things like, me filming a TikTok video about what was going on at the airport that somebody picked up on and became footage that went on every news channel, every newspaper in the UK. Despite me never having sold video content or images, they were the images that were on the papers on Saturday morning, on the websites on Friday. Why? Because I was in the right place for the right time. And I emphasize the for the right time. In other words, if I'm building relationships, I am positioning myself for a better future. That's, I remember somebody saying is, it's not about being in the right place at the right time, because that's luck, being in the right place at the right time. But choosing to be in the right place for the right time. In other words, being visible, personal brand, building relationships, opportunities, allows you to unlock things that you did not see coming. So, for those of you listening to me and going, what is Dean on about? Right? What I'm saying to you is, if you're a solopreneur or a small business owner, there are opportunities at your feet right now that you can't recognize. You can't see them. And on face value, they may look like a waste of time or a distraction. Now, I'm not saying here you have to pursue every last deal or every last thing that comes your way. But there is merit. You will get way more opportunities if you pursue and if you go after building your personal brand and building relationships with people prolifically. Coffees, virtual coffees. It's much more efficient now. You can do virtual coffees. But you don't know what's there until you do it. And some of you are so focused on just the things that you think are, 99% likely, that you're missing things that you just can't see. I can remember working with a client, and they would not meet with somebody unless they'd passed a certain vetting of their ICP, even if they showed interest in their services. And that client was a solopreneur, and I advised them and said, you're being far too narrow in your thinking. And what they were doing is, yeah, I'm focused on my ideal client, my ideal client, my ideal client. And there's nothing wrong with that. But what they were doing was, if their ideal client didn't, if somebody showed interest in their services, but wasn't X person, X company, they would not even talk to them. They wouldn't even look at it. Guess what happened? They ended up changing businesses completely because they were so narrow. And it may sound like I'm going against my own advice, and I'm not. What I'm saying is, opportunities don't always present themselves in perfectly wrapped packages, and they don't come labeled as this is a big opportunity. Sometimes the big stuff, the really lucrative stuff, looks like a waste of time. Most of the time, they look like a waste of time. And so you need to really reflect and go, am I not investing enough time in building my personal brand so that people know who I am? 2, depth of relationships with people, because that brings referrals, that brings opportunities. And then 3, am I being too closed to opportunities? And that may mean giving up a percentage of your time and deliberately allowing it to be wasted, because there are opportunities that come in all sorts of shapes and sizes and don't have a little bow written around them. And as I've been traveling, I've been reflecting on this, and particularly with the whole news and TikTok thing that happened, that there are things that happen that you can seize on and jump on and capture in the moment. But very often we're not in the moment. We're not there and present. We're always thinking about something else. We're always thinking about how much work we to do, what's on our to-do list. And in the moment, there's probably opportunities that you have missed because you're so busy thinking about your to-do list and prioritizing things that are important, but not allowing that space for other things to present themselves. In other words, you're so pinned down, so task focused, so to-do list focused, so productive, you can't find the opportunities. And my experience has been, and my experience is, that sometimes in those moments where you just network, build relationships, build your personal brand, they create opportunities that no plan, no strategy could find. No strategy could predict. No business plan could predict. But they're there. And they're usually, for, it might be something like for every 10, there's one really big thing. But you're not getting those big things. For every 9 for every 9 times you waste your time, there's one time where a huge opportunity comes your way. And that's been my experience. But sometimes we're just so busy thinking about everything else. We're just trying to be productive, and we go, that call's a time waster. Maybe I'll just bump it or cancel it. That person isn't my ICP, so I'll just ignore it. Or I don't have time to build my personal brand because I've got X number of hours worth of client work to do, and you're missing opportunities that could be life-changing. So that's my little rant for today, really, is go look and go, am I leaving any space to build relationships? Am I building my personal brand so I'm widely known? And am I doing anything to build those relationships? Or am I just trying to pursue my task list and hope it all comes my way? Because my experience has been that those time-wasting moments always create surprises. And they come in packaging or boxes that don't necessarily say, this is an opportunity, this is perfect for you, Dean. They look like you're wasting time. So have a look. Are you creating time to build those relationships? And are you actually investing in building your personal brand? I can promise you, if you are, those opportunities will come your way. There will be moments, because what you've done on LinkedIn, that people come and talk to you and say, can you do this? And opportunities and deals and clients will come your way that will never come if you build that brand and build those relationships well. And if you stay in the moment, I think that's really, really important. We've all got tasks to do. We've all got things on our list that we should be doing. But if you don't create the space to do those two things, you miss opportunities.